Hello, everybody. I'm Ann Archer Dennington, and I'm a volunteer with Arts Votes ATL. And I want to welcome you here this afternoon, where we are with the candidates for City Council District 9. Um, the Arts Vote ATL, it's a group of volunteers that are working to invite all the candidates each city council race for a forum. This is taken off the mayoral race, which happened previously in last mayoral election, and it was repeated this year on September 27th. And you can watch that at Arts Votes Atlanta, Art Votes Atlanta. Um, and shortly, all of the city council districts will be on as well. So thank you for joining us. Um, with us today, we have Devin Barrington Ward, who is one of the two candidates running for City Council District 9. All candidates are invited, and our incumbent Dustin Hills did not respond, so he is not with us this evening. But with us as our moderator is the incredible T. Lang. She is the founder of T. Lang Dance. She is also the founding department chair of dance performance and choreography at Spelman College. She is intimately involved with District 9. And T. Lang, we are so delighted to have you here to lead this conversation, this very important conversation on the arts with our candidates. So I am going to just bow out now and let you two take it away. Thank you for being here, Devin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Nicole, and Arts Vote ATL. I'm so excited for this conversation. And I think there's a little bit of feedback. So if y'all could just take a moment to turn off your mics, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you. But Devin, I think they brought us together because your work, what stands out, what stood out and resonated with me was the work that you intentionally do to transform and empower Black and brown bodies. Yes. And create these like collective safety nets and create energy of good health and justice and freedom. I like that. I resonate with that deeply.
Thank you.
So before we begin, how long you been in Atlanta?
Are you Atlanta's home. Yeah, Atlanta's home. Now some people would say because I was partially raised outside of the perimeter that I'm not from Atlanta, but my dad.
High school you go to.
But my dad lived in the city on the west side and in the West End and Grant Park and different places when he was, available and in my life. And so I spent time in Atlanta as a young person. And then of course, in my teenage years, as soon as I had car keys, I was in the city, and moved to the West Side to District 9 in 2008. And District 9 has been my home since then, with the exception of a few years where I lived in Washington, D.C.
Okay, yeah, I came in 2008, so you probably have seen the whole art scene, because there was like a renaissance happening, just completely shift and surge. Okay, so it goes into my first question about how do you see the arts and cultural community being leveraged to improve the quality of life, especially for residents in District 9?
Yeah, so thank you for that question, T. Lang, and it's an honor to be having this conversation with you this evening. They could have chose anyone to be a moderator, but you're the moderator, so it's great. Just for folks to introduce myself, Devin Barrington Ward. I am a candidate for Atlanta City Council District 9. Been a longtime community organizer for the last 15 years or so. I got my first opportunity in community organizing work with the amazing Stacey Abrams, who was running for office for the first time in 2006. I was 16 at the time, and I started knocking on doors, and that ability to organize in my community has led to a wealth of opportunities that make me prepared for the role today. And it's also how this campaign is being really shared with community is through door to door and talking to people. And so I'll get into more of my experience and background as the conversation progresses. But to answer your question, I think it's vital that the arts and cultural scene in Atlanta be leveraged to build wealth and opportunities for communities that have been denied those opportunities for so long. And in fact, I believe that those communities that have been denied investment opportunities, denied traditional economic development are actually areas that are surviving because of the culture. We know that Bankhead is internationally known through hip hop. So many different types of artists have come through Bankhead. It is the unofficial home of trap music, which is a story of our people, stories that include the struggle of the war on drugs and how people have navigated that while also trying to, find economic opportunities in their communities after being left out. And so when we're talking about an industry that I believe the numbers is close to $600 million as far as the economic impact of the arts and cultural scene in the city of Atlanta, we're talking about $500 million. But is that, do communities actually have ownership over the art and the entertainment and the culture that is exported around the world? And so I think it is about making sure, for example, I saw a group of young people today from Douglas High School, and they had hoodies on that said, "Keeping Atlanta's Culture." And I was like, whoa, this isn't just one hoodie, it's like a group of them. And so I think that making sure that it starts with young people. Art is inherently centered and anchored by young people. So how are we harvesting the brilliance of our arts and cultural programs in our high schools and middle schools and elementary schools? How are we using those programs to expose young people to the arts industry in Atlanta? It was one of the few places where you can be involved in the art industry and you don't have to leave to go somewhere else because there's so much opportunity here in Atlanta. And so I think that one of the main ways that the city should be doing that is more money in the budget for grants to support arts and cultural programs. Yeah. More money in the budget for grants to support arts and cultural programs so that nonprofits aren't having to just look outside of the city of Atlanta or the state of Georgia, but actually knows that there is an investment from the city. And while it's not a department or where, we need to have, people who work for the city that create their own art, we do need to have a department in the city of Atlanta that is fostering that industry, that's providing resources and funding. So that way people know where the dollars are coming from.
I'm gonna do the church finger.
Yes, please. My apologies.
Devin, no, because you're saying so much that I vibe with, that I understand, and I think it's because you're from the hometown,
Yeah.
and you're able to like really see, the trajectory, the lens is different. It's clear. It's not rose color. Mm-hmm. And you're able to critically think and be aware and keep your finger on the pulse by watching and listening to the youth that are citizens here, that are telling us if the pulse is healthy or not. You said something about, with your observation, really understanding, there's money here, but there's a chronic under support of arts and culture here.
Correct.
And oh my God, just thank you for acknowledging that and taking the time to observe and witness that. Mm-hmm. Because we're all wondering your thoughts and strategies of how you're going to solve that. And who have you identified to be on your team to help you with those efforts? Yeah. I know you've been thinking about it.
Yeah, so I think we need to have a more robust arts and cultural council here in the city of Atlanta. I think part of the reason why there's not a real solid investment strategy and a strategy to increase the capacity of the arts and cultural industry here in Atlanta is that there hasn't been a cultural plan for the city of Atlanta since 2006.
I know, that's like,
and that is insane considering how much culture, one of the reasons why I love Atlanta is It reminds me a lot of my mom and my grandmother's home country, Jamaica, which is Jamaica is an exporter of culture around the world. That's why everywhere you can go in the world, everybody knows where Jamaica is or have heard of a Jamaican or can try and do a Jamaican accent. And so similar to Atlanta, we export a lot of culture around the world. And so I think it's a missed opportunity that we don't have a cultural plan for the city of Atlanta. And so one of the first things I would be doing is working with members of council and the mayor's office to commission a body of people who will help develop that plan in a very intentional way. And so how is that intentional? I think it's holding numerous listening sessions with throughout all of the 12 council districts in the city of Atlanta. It's also making sure that there are listening and engagement sessions that cater to special populations. So making sure that there's these listening sessions that are available for young people in areas across the city of Atlanta. That means partnering with APS, and ideally this should be a cultural plan that is inclusive of APS, right? And it partners with Fulton County, also want to be on board because they also have lots of resources to invest in the arts and cultural entities here in this city. They should also be a part of that process. But also, intentionally having people who are guiding that process, the people that we contract to do the engagement sessions, local nonprofits that, are already holding arts residency fellows and universities that already have robust arts and cultural divisions and departments to be a part of the construction of this plan. Because I think that is what really needs to guide how we move forward as far as making sure that those resources in arts and culture actually are distributed in a way that's equitable. I think a lot of people know about, of course, the Woodruff Art Center, but do they know about the Trapp Museum and how that is important as well? But do they know about the Hammons House? Do they know about, the Grove Park Theater that unfortunately has not been redeveloped yet because of numerous challenges, but challenges that I think the city, if we had a real plan, we would be able to figure out how best to leverage our dollars and philanthropic dollars to help entities like that so that there's robust arts and cultural venues that are accessible at all price points throughout the city of Atlanta. So I think it is bringing the arts and cultural community to the table to develop and build that plan on behalf of the city.
Thank you for walking us through that. It is, it's those understanding that you got to have your team right.
Right.
And that, there's some things that are not broken, right? They just need fixing, to have the same, not to disrupt what the historically the arts and cultural have in Atlanta have been and do and have made impact, but thinking about how to use that blueprint and innovate and push it forward to address the voids that have that are definitely here.
Right, and present. But one thing is that the arts and cultural community in Atlanta is resilient. Look at what it's been able to do without a plan. Look at what it's been able to do without that specific investment that would come along with a plan. And so
right,
if we were actually, yeah.
Right. Artists here have historically been able to rub the pennies together,
Yep.
Still have the plan and thrive, but let's not continue that narrative like
absolutely
that
not.
we can continue doing that, because let me tell you something right now real quick before we go on, because since it's just you and I, we have time.
Yes, yeah.
Right now I'm in Boston
Uh-huh.
at doing a residency here.
Okay.
I'm outside of Atlanta and I'm being treated well. The funding and the resources are available. The rapport, the welcoming is there. the word on the art streets are that we have to leave Atlanta to either, be felt, recognized, or acknowledged of the genius that we put in and that we give back to the community because it's so underfunded. And we still stick to the plan. We still do what we need to do because we have something to say in the South.
Absolutely. We
But we have
influence
to
everything in
go
Atlanta.
out to get the funding to bring it back in to do the magic. So yeah, I love hearing your plan and how you're going to implement a new arts and cultural policy plan, because
Mhm.
it's been 15 years. That's
That's when I started working with Stacey Abrams, and so
That's when
that
you were
felt like a
16 years
lifetime
old.
ago.
You were
Yeah,
16.
right.
So yes, please, please put some innovative, radical thinkers along with the historical, traditional gatekeepers too in your plan.
Well, I think elected officials in Atlanta need to view arts and culture beyond like how residents view it. They need to view it beyond just the movie industry. I think one of the things that unfortunately has happened with the this very lucrative tax credit for the film and TV industry, which I'm supportive of. I have so many friends who work in that
Yes.
industry.
And in
And
addition to,
in addition to, we have to have elected officials who understand that that is not the sole source of arts and culture. A matter of fact, it's very, in the grand scheme, a very small component of the arts and cultural scene. And we would not be as attractive to the film and TV industry if it were not for Atlanta's robust arts and cultural community, which is why we need to invest more, because more investments in arts and culture is only going to lead to more wealth generation for the city of Atlanta. But I don't want that wealth generation to be done in a way that continues to leave communities like District 9 behind.
right. Come on, Devin. Come on. I think back to the beginning of Shelter in Place when our mayor, our mayor name is Keisha,
Yes.
put us in Shelter in Place. And it was fascinating watching the world turn to art to find its joy, to find its routine, its ritual, to find its comfort.
To make sense of what's happening in the world.
They turn to arts.
We turn to art and nature. Those are the two things that art and nature, which is also art in itself.
Which is art and science in itself. Art and science in itself.
Yeah.
And just watching how the artists would pivot their craft to use digital platforms, virtual platforms, but digital platforms to enhance their business. And it was also fascinating watching thousands, millions of people not only attend like a DJ Nice or Versus, but tuning into like Atlanta choreographer Jewel Lane's workshops, or or my virtual workshops and performances, or different artists around the world. Seeing that we're having this global effect. But then we also look at the data and we see that gig workers and independent artists and creatives and their families were impacted the most with COVID-19. And we're not really out of this thing.
Right.
So what has been your thinking, your strategies that you're sketching about policies that will support those needs, those areas that were impacted with COVID-19?
Yeah, so one of the things, I think, if I would have been on council when COVID-19 had struck, I would have immediately said, which are the industries that when federal support does come down, what are the industries that typically get left out, right? And so then that's the opportunity for the city to step up and say, okay, well, we know that these are the areas where we can kind of rely on getting support to our business and nonprofit community, but these are the areas that are probably going to be underfunded from the feds. Do we have, first asking the question, do we have the resources to shoulder that? based on how we have been spending money, and the fact of the matter is the city of Atlanta is not broke. And so when you aren't broke, this is the opportunity to make important strategic investments that help save industries that, you know, don't have the same profit margin. But it's not about, some things are priceless, and it's not what the arts and cultural community in Atlanta can offer is so much more than a profit margin. We have to view art and culture as important infrastructure, right? It is a piece of the infrastructure of a city. A community is, the health of a community is seen by the art and culture that is available there. And so, yeah, I think that I would have, looked to some of my more progressive colleagues on council to see where we could find money in the budget to create more grant funds that would have been available to folks in the art and community, art and cultural community, and also made sure that if there were federal dollars, a lot of times people only know what they know. There's so many resources that are available through the city of Atlanta that come through the federal government, through Fulton County and other entities that could have helped some of the hemorrhaging that people were experiencing because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the fact that they are, artists who do this for a full time, who do, this is their life work and how they take care of their family. So many folks may have had been qualified for more resources than they had maybe initially realized. But if we don't have caseworkers and outreach folks and other representatives of the city who are going into community either virtually or in person and letting people know that these funds are available, then our people don't know. And that can't be an excuse, for example, for how Fulton County has sent back, millions of dollars to the federal government, money that, covered a lot of different things, but community development, and community development is art and culture. And so we have to be intentional about making sure that we elect leaders who have a full range of understanding of all of the different industries that make Atlanta run, and all of the different scenes that are important to the culture of our community and our city. And so, I've been blessed with the experiences that I've had to be that type of council person.
Love it. Well, okay, it seems like you've answered all of our questions.
Okay.
And I do have a couple ones, but I don't know if we have space and to improv off of a question, or if we should just get into, I'm sure our audience also had some questions for you too. Which way should we go? What path should we go down, Anne?
If you have some questions that are from the conversation, I encourage you to keep asking for a few minutes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Because Devin, can you share with us the strategy? Because you're gonna go like the politics, right? And being innovative and shifting. You have to navigate through a lot of red tape that slows down the fire that you have to be of service, to be of impact. So what are your strategies on how you're going to play nice and get that thing done?
So, one of the things, and this goes to a question that I see in the chat, and I'll elaborate on that question even further, but it's one of the ways that I differentiate myself between the current council member and how my approach would be as the new council member. I think you don't have to do the political game and horsemanship when you are a community organizer that understands that I'm not just putting myself on the ballot, I'm putting community on the ballot. This campaign is about making sure that people actually have an opportunity to co-lead alongside their elected officials around the future of their community and their city. And so what it looks like is when we have good policy that we know is good public policy, and the conversations at City Hall are not leading to progression forward on that good public policy, we take it to the streets. As a city council member, we knock on people's doors. We have town hall meetings. We let people know that this is good public policy, because anything that I'm introducing would only be something that is introduced based on the needs of my district and the broader constituency in the city of Atlanta. And so I know that, for example, if there is, I've had so many folks in Council District 9, as we're going door to door, say, yes, we need more mental health services in Atlanta. And one of the things that I plan on doing is creating a 24-hour mental health crisis response unit that sits within inside of the Department of Fire and Rescue. If there was, for example, upheaval or barriers on council, we go straight to those voters who said, yes, we wanted these things, the people who supported us, the people who didn't. And we start getting petitions. We start bringing people down to City Hall. We start telling folks to call other council members' offices and demand that this is what we want. Part of the reason why we oftentimes say that we want a progressive movement, but a progressive movement is not built around one progressive elected official. It's not even built around a squad of progressive elected officials. It is built around a community that wants to see progress and progressive public policy that empowers those progressive elected officials to work on their behalf. But that doesn't mean that we send essentially our elected official to school and we don't come up to the school to provide aid. We also are there. We are calling the other officials in the city who don't agree with the progress that we want to move forward with. We are peacefully organizing and protesting and making our voices heard. We are writing emails. We are having town hall meetings. We are writing op-eds. We are engaging our neighbors around what we know is good public policy, because I can't do it by myself. And any elected official that will tell you that they can do it by themselves, respectfully, I would say that they're not being honest with you. If it really is about moving forward a truly progressive agenda, it takes all of us.
Ooh, Devin, that sounds like some good trouble.
Well, I respect so much of the work that Congressman Lewis did as a community organizer. He was a community organizer before he was an elected official. One of the areas that I, find myself where I've had commonality is, of course, I haven't gotten arrested as many times as he has, but I was arrested in 2018 following voter suppression in the 2018 election. And that was a recognition that we cannot hold the things that we value as dear to think that they cannot be taken away, that they aren't rights that can be skirted, that they aren't rights that could be chipped away at. And so it's important that community members alongside their progressive elected officials stand up and fight for good public policy, because it is in the nature of good trouble. I did want to address the question in the chat on how I differentiate myself from the current council person. Beyond my style, which is the style of a community organizer, we have some very clear public policy differences as far as what we believe will keep Atlanta safe, how we believe Atlanta should be housed, and how we believe Atlanta should be generating wealth in communities. I don't believe that we should be tearing down 90 acres of forest land to build a military-style police training facility at the tune of $90 million, where we have not gotten an environmental assessment. So we move forward. People, you can't even purchase a home without an environmental assessment, or at least a lay of the land to understand what's going to be the impact, to the community. And so that is a challenge. In addition to that, we can't say on one side that we are supportive of, trying to stop the major impacts of climate change, like flooding and deforestation, and then actually be a perpetuator of that by tearing down 90 acres of forest, and also having a larger impact on the surrounding other 200 acres that will be impacted by this proposed facility. In addition to that, outside of that, we haven't seen a proposal, a counter proposal to renovate the current facilities that we have for training. And we know that this facility would be larger than New York Police Department's, larger than Chicago's, larger than Los Angeles, and our police department is a fraction of their sizes. And so the current council member supported that public policy. I did not. I believe that the way that we can keep communities safe is through one, we know that the majority of property crime in this city is happening with young people between the ages of 16 and 24. Many of those young people are in need of immediate employment opportunities, and the city of Atlanta has those opportunities because right now, part of the reason why the yard trimmings, the potholes aren't being filled, and the streets aren't being repaved is that the Department of Public Works is massively understaffed. We could be training those young people that are at risk of getting in trouble or have gotten in trouble for a good paying job as an incentive to stay out of trouble and to keep our community safer. We do need mental health crisis response units here in the city of Atlanta because we know that much of our more violent crime is connected to, many of times is connected to mental health challenges that are going unaddressed in communities that again have been underinvested in. Councilmember Hillis also believes that we should be subsidizing millionaires to construct developments downtown and giving away hundreds of millions of our tax dollars to corporate developers to incentivize development in Atlanta that never reaches the communities that need the development. And so I am a firm believer of community benefits agreements for new developments like Microsoft, which is coming to Council District 9. Those community benefits agreements should include robust hiring goals to make sure that they aren't just coming in as a tech giant and not hiring people directly from the community. And if the skill set doesn't exist in the community, you all are Microsoft. You made essentially the first computer that people were really using anyway. All I remember is Microsoft. And so you all can train folks to be ready for jobs at Microsoft and at other tech-related industries. You can be making sure that there's a certain amount of affordable housing that is constructed in and around Council District 9. And so those are some of the ways where Councilmember Hillis and myself differ on public policy and our approaches and our leadership style and how we believe we can keep Atlanta safe and how we can believe we keep Atlanta prosperous. I believe that when we bet on people, when we invest in our communities, when we aren't just attracted to nice shiny things downtown, that communities like those Grove Park, Center Hill, and other Bankhead communities can win.
Ooh. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton, for that great question. Devin, yes. I mean, I wish the other gentleman was here to respond.
I think and I will say, I do think that, some folks will, have their opinion about his absence. I know that as candidates, there are so many different forums and meetings that we all have to attend. Undoubtedly, who knows, I could be missing something myself. But what I will say is that I have participated in more forums at this point than my opponent. And I believe it's important that people really vote not just for what sounds good on paper, but for the heart of the candidate and be able to have an exchange of ideas so that people can really compare and contrast and make an informed decision.
I'm filtering. You're right now. You're right.
Behave. I see another question in the chat.
Mr. Hamilton, in addition to community benefits agreements, how would you balance the growth and development of the arts community in Atlanta with the threat of gentrification?
Yeah, so one, I think artist housing is important. We don't have housing that is affordable. Well, the way that you keep art in Atlanta is you keep artists in Atlanta. You make it where they have housing that is affordable for them to stay in the city of Atlanta. If they can't stay in the city of Atlanta, then the art leaves. And so I think one is making sure that we have housing that is actually affordable to artists. And so affordable, not just to artists, but to the grocery store worker or the person working at the airport, but also to the artists as well. And so specific housing, arts residency fellowships, also making sure that arts venues and cultural venues that are significant in the city of Atlanta receive tax breaks and subsidies. We cannot continue to subsidize large corporate development in the city of Atlanta that doesn't even hire people from the city of Atlanta. And we don't see the benefits of those tax incentives in communities like Grove Park and Center Hill and others. But it's also important that we provide tax relief and incentives to venues that we know are without it will disappear. And so I think part of that plan that we had talked about earlier in the discussion should also have, I would want to know, what are the venues and cultural spaces that are most in danger of closing, most in danger of being bought by a developer to become something else, most in danger of sometimes physical danger. I mean, like literally there are some arts and cultural spaces in Atlanta that are so significant, but because they haven't had the money to make the renovations needed, it can be dangerous for them to even stay open. And so I would want to make sure that in that cultural plan, we have an understanding of all of the venues, almost kind of like an endangered species list, like who is at threat of being, displaced, who is at the greatest risk of being displaced, who has gone extinct, and is there a way to bring it back to life? And so I think a community benefits agreement should be informed by a cultural plan so that when we are doing community benefits agreements for developments over $5 million in any area of the city, we can reference the cultural and art plan for the city of Atlanta and say, well, these are the different venues, or this is how many artists live in this area that could be endangered of being displaced because of this type of development. And so now we know how to target that community benefits agreement to benefit the art industry and the art and cultural scene in that particular neighborhood. But also we should have similar plans so that way when we're pulling community benefits agreements, we know how it's going to impact legacy homeowners or people who have inherited a house from a grandma in Atlanta, how it's going to impact young people in the district, how it's going to impact our traffic patterns. But I believe the cultural plan would be a great place for how we tie community benefits agreements into saving art venues and artists from being displaced in Atlanta.
When you
You're
cross over,
welcome.
I have a list of names that for you to consider to put on your team. Oh my God.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would welcome it. I think that we can, there's different avenues for this. This is something that could sit within the mayor's office. They could easily establish a task force, but also council has the authority and the ability to authorize city legislation at the council level that directs the executive branch to, not only develop this cultural and art plan for the city of Atlanta, but also to establish a working group or a commission or a task force or whatever type of body would be needed to hammer out that plan.
Yes, and thank you, Citizen Hamilton, for your question. Citizen Hamilton of District 9, do you have more for us? He's on a roll.
One of the other things that I would like to just make mention, even though it's not District 9 specific, is the city of Atlanta. I think there are, as I ride around the city, I see these large vacant buildings that either the city owns or that we have the opportunity to influence how the sale of that building is moved, or facilities like the Empty City Detention Center downtown that I've advocated for years, along with organizations like Women on the Rise and Solutions Not Punishment Collaborative, to become a center for equity, wellness, and freedom, to repurpose that building so that it actually has a purpose beyond being an empty jail. There's a 1,200 person capacity, and right now on any given day, there's 20 to 25 people in that facility. That's the perfect space to make sure that as we're developing the city of Atlanta, we're talking about mixed development. I feel like mixed development is also not always inclusive of art and culture. And so we're talking about redeveloping the Atlanta Civic Center, such a historic piece of history in Atlanta, and an important piece of real estate that the city of Atlanta owns. It should not just become condos. And if it is going to be affordable housing, it should also be anchored with a large cultural space that is indicative of what has previously been there, and the first Black mayor for Atlanta was sworn in at the Atlanta Civic Center. And so those places, the old World of Coke building, I've been in conversations with the current owners of the Underground, and there's a desire for that space to be, retail, but also inclusive of art and culture in Atlanta. And so we have so much opportunity, and I'm excited to be the next city council member to help guide Atlanta's cultural and artistic scene.
I am so
Evan.
sorry to step in. We do have some time limits because we are sharing this channel, and I just wanted to say thank you so much, Devin,
Yes,
for
Thank
being
you.
here with us this evening. T. Lang, thank you as
thank you,
always for all that
Devin,
you
so
bring
much
to
for
these
your expertise,
conversations.
Devin.
And to our audience, just to let you know that you can watch this as well as the others. We'll have them up on YouTube shortly. And as I hope you glean from this conversation, if you didn't already know, um, whomever is sitting on our Atlanta City Council, whether they represent your district or not, their vote is critical to what happens in this city. So I encourage you to watch all of these, even outside of your district. Get to know those people who are running our city. And thank you for being here with us this afternoon. And thank you, too, for the wonderful conversation.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Good night.